Yo, what is up? I really quickly want to talk about the new update coming in, obviously being the Brawlhalla Fest that is about to release, and what's actually being changed with the update, because there's a lot of balance changes happening in game. Right now, I'm playing Lord of Rax, and as you can see, when I hit Inlight, I'm able to hit Sarah True. I missed it there, but you are able to hit this True if you are playing 10 decks. And it's a pretty big combo for blasters, because, now you don't have to do D-Light combos only. You could just do Inlight Sarah over and over again if you really want to. But, it's a pretty good combo. It's used a lot now on Cassidy and Lord Brax specifically, but it's actually being removed Wednesday, which is a very huge change to be added already. I'm really glad to see it because I don't really like blasters having stuff true out of Inlight and Sidelight. If you don't know before, Sidelight into Sarah used to be true at all HPs, and that was a very, very good combo. Now it's only one frame, so, obviously if you waste your dodge, you're going to get punished for it, but having in like Sarah right now, like in the game, is so crazy to me as like a true combo, because it is just such a good true combo. But it is being removed from the game, luckily. So if you don't like fighting blasters, now you don't have to deal with Inlight into Sarah being true anymore, which I think overall is a pretty good thing. However, there's more than just that. There's actual just super stat changes in general. So what's being changed is depending on the super stat you select, what's being removed is actually different now. So, for example, on Lord Vrax, if you want to use super speed, so having 2 speed, right now it takes away from strength and defense. I'll show you real quick as well in this lobby real quick. Right now, if I have super speed on, it's going to take from defense and attack. By Wednesday, it's going to take 2 from dex instead. So, depending on the legend play, it's going to change how your stats are split up. So I think Koji, for example, on defense, it takes from both dex and speed. Wednesday, it's only going to take from dex. It's going to take 2 from dex instead of 1. So overall, these are some pretty big changes. But going off of that, currently right now I'm using the super stance defense and just playing 3 dex Ulgrim. But I'm going to have to change that soon because there is another update about dex that has been changed. Obviously, now that we have super stats, you're able to have 2 dex on legends, which is very big if you do not like the current dex change, because your legend, loses the weapon really early or whatever. Maybe you're someone who plays dex on like higher dex legend, you want to have like a dex or something to keep your weapon. But what's being changed with dex specifically, I'll see if I can pull it up real quick just to see. So what they said is they need to modify it more on the lower dex side. So I don't know how much is going to affect higher dex legends, but for lower decks specifically, they're like, we need to change it, we need to adjust it to make it a lot more aggressive, especially with super stats being in the game. So what that means is they're probably going to be changing how low decks works again on when you lose your legend. I believe right now on like 3 decks, I lose it at like 90 or something. Before, it used to be like 70 HP or something. And yeah, once again, they're thinking about switching it again, and obviously the change is going to go through starting Wednesday, so if you are playing a low dex legend, be ready for that. You might want to consider switching your stance to super dex. And right there, as you see, 100 HP, I lost my weapon. That's going to be a lot more aggressive on 3 decks, right? You're not going to be losing it that late, you're going to be losing it a lot more early. So yeah, it's a pretty big change. However, I'm a lot more fine with it. Before, it was very aggressive. Now that we can actually add 2 decks is pretty big, because now I can just play 5 decks Ulgrim instead of 3 decks Ulgrim. Even if I'm losing 2 other stats, if I want to keep my weapon, that's just how it's going to have to be. This is definitely, it definitely feels like another nerf to Ulgrim, because, I was really happy to have my super defense, but, now they're changing it again, you're going to switch over to decks. At least for me, like, you don't have to, obviously, if you're fine with what HP you lose your weapon at, but I definitely not. I definitely want to keep my weapon a little bit longer. Some other things I'm going to mention as well, with Spear and Orb specifically, their sidelight has been, this guy just, oh no, he didn't give up. I was like, Spear and Orb, their sidelight, if you miss sidelight, you just get out of it a little bit faster, so you're not stuck in recovery frames for as long. That's pretty much the only change there. But Cannon actually got nerfed with the threat coverage. So they're changing the threat coverage of 3 different moves. One of them being Inlight, another one being D-Light, and I think it's either Sarah or Sidelight. I could be wrong. I think it is Sarah, if I'm right. And basically, it's just going to be changing the way the threat zones work. So what I'm specifically thinking with Cannon, I'll show you guys this in training room after this game. Okay, so in training room, if I do D-Light real quick, as you can see, there's like this small little circle at the front of the move. I think they are removing that circle, which is pretty interesting. And they also did say they're taking a little bit from the vertical hitbox, so just keep that in mind if you're playing Cannon, because I believe there was something specifically with that little circle you get on Cannon. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure there was, and so that circle is probably going to be removed, judging by what they said. And it was side air that they said. It just says the leading edges of the attack, so, you know, probably something with this specifically, like maybe this middle circle here while I'm moving forward. And then neutrally, they said they're going to decrease the vertical threat coverage, which I can't tell you how much this is going to be. This could be a very big change to inlight or not as noticeable. But, you know, for example, if you're doing like a spear D-light, you could probably hit this really easily with inlight. Maybe in the future you won't be able to, and yet instead have to rely more on side light. This is a very similar change. To me, this is a very similar change to Axe, where D-light used to be able to hit both grounded and aerial. So a lot of the times you would rely more on D-light instead of inlight. Now I think it's going to be, instead of having to choose between, or instead of just always using inlight, you can have to choose between side light and inlight. They have changed a lot with just the super stances and dexterity. Obviously the blasters, inlight into syrup being a huge one, and then obviously adding back this kind of more aggressive way of using dex is also pretty interesting as well. I'm curious to see how this is all going to work coming Wednesday, and as well, when that does happen, I will be obviously talking about more of the cosmetics and stuff, since they'll actually be in game. But there is obviously a new extended Mordex skin. There's some like new bundles and stuff, but obviously we're all here for the extended Mordex. And there is something I will talk about, is the if you link your account, they're changing how the account linking works, which I'm actually really happy for, because, you know, I'm sure like a lot of you probably have an account linked on a platform you don't use as much, or maybe don't even have anymore. Which I have some good news and some bad news depending on the situation you're in. But depending on the account, I think it's like specific platforms have like different rules on this. But depending on the platform you play on, your linked account will now actually be permanent. So you don't have to wait, you know, like right now it's 30 days per account. You don't have to wait forever. I don't know which consoles or like what platforms are being changed specifically. I would imagine that probably some console platforms are going to keep the 30-day limit, and stuff like your phone account and stuff like that won't have that 30-day limit. But they are changing how that works, which is very big. Obviously, a lot of people don't want to have a timer, especially when they don't have access to these accounts anymore. So pretty big news overall. I can't wait to see what, you know, platforms are supported, especially if like certain consoles are allowed. That's going to be big for some people who have probably switched over to PC but want their console stuff still intact. And yeah, I think overall it's a great change. I'm really glad it's being added to the game. But yeah, as I was saying before, the cross inventory is being added back, so, or not being added back, it's being changed to where now you don't have to wait 30 days depending on the platform you are playing on. However, keep in mind that you will still have to log into this account, which I think is just the bad news. Like if you don't have access, like let's say your PlayStation anymore, you will have to log back in to your PlayStation account to actually get access to it. So definitely do keep that in mind if you plan on keeping your PlayStation account. You're going to need to be able to like log into it, or like whatever account you're going to be using. And obviously it depends on if that account is eligible for the no limit or not, because some of them will still have the limits. Keep that in mind. Don't know which ones. But yeah, I think it's overall pretty good news, especially if you still have access to your console and you just want to not have to keep logging into it every 30 days. You no longer have to, you know, depending on, obviously, once again, the console. And I'm very curious on how this is going to be updated, if it'll get changed more, if more consoles are going to allow for the unlimited access, because I think it's a very good change. I think you definitely shouldn't have to like constantly log in every 30 days just to have access to skins you probably paid for before you switched. Right? Because, I mean, like, you know, I get why the consoles, like, you know, they want you on their console specifically. You know, it's stuff they want you to, like, they want you to buy the DLC on their console, you know? But it's like, if you're, let's say you're like a console player and you're on PC, you're probably going to stick to your PC, you know? Just as long as your PC runs Brawl, you're not going to... It's not like you're going to go to the PlayStation Store just to buy a skin. You just want it for the stuff you've already bought. And so it's not really, like, I don't really see where it helps, like, a console at all. Because it's not like you're going to be playing games on the console. You're just going to log in, log off. So, yeah, I do hope it's available for all consoles in the near future. And that's about all I really have to talk about. Obviously, when the update comes out, there'll be another one I'll be making about it, because then I'll have access to a lot more stuff to talk about. But I am excited for the new skins and stuff, like the Extended Mordex, and just checking that stuff out I think will be very interesting, especially with the update. Without blasters, having in like Sarah, I think is going to be very interesting. I really hope. I think Balloon Boy uploaded a blasters guide not too long ago. I forgot when it was, but you know, hopefully that isn't outdated now. That'd be really sad. And yeah, I'm just very curious to see how this is going to go. I'm very curious to see how mid-season is also going to go as well with these new changes. And I'm really hoping the deck change isn't too bad for characters like Ulgrim here, who haven't been treated the best lately. You know, like, none of my Sigs kill, Lance can't kill. It's really sad. You know, I need a buff to my boy Ulgrim. I cannot lie. That Seer doesn't even kill. Like, come on. You gotta be kidding me. I need to find another Sarah just to kill. Crazy. Let's see what I can hit here. No, don't get it in light. He knows I'm fishing for it. There we go. That was so scuffed, but whatever. Yeah, it's so hard to kill an Ulgrim now. I wish it was I wish Ulgrim got a little bit of buff, but I'm happy with the changes they made already. And yeah, let me know what your thoughts on these changes are as well, because I'm very curious to see how you guys feel. You know, are you happy? Are you sad? You know, did one of your weapons get nerfed or something? Definitely let me know down below. And with that said, I'll see you guys Wednesday when the new update comes out. And other than that, I will see you guys in the next one.